I was never the one chasing. You just got too comfortable with my presence. Let me make one thing clear. Mirroring doesn't mean becoming bitter. It means becoming balanced. If he's consistent, match that. If he's open, meet it. But the moment his energy becomes unpredictable, you shift. You don't beg for effort. You don't demand respect. You reflect what's given, then elevate above it. Your peace is too expensive to rent out to someone who doesn't know how to value it. Picture this. He's used to you always being there, always replying first, always caring more. Then one day, you stop. Not because you hate him, but because you love yourself more. Picture this. He often keeps you lowly and sultaned. You can't stand him. Then one day, you stop. Not because you hate him, but because you love yourself more. That absence will echo louder than your presence ever did. Because when a woman disappears after mirroring a man's indifference, she becomes unforgettable. Not because of what she said, but because of what she refused to say. There's a kind of silence that speaks volumes, a kind of stillness that screams. You don't need to block him, expose him, drag him. Just mirror him and then fade. Let him feel what it's like to lose a woman who was willing to meet him where he was, where he wanted to go. He deserved the same. He deserved a like. 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 He deserved a like, but not willing to stay where she wasn't valued. A man can ignore your words. He can argue with your emotions, but he cannot ignore your absence. When your energy shifts, when your presence disappears, he'll feel it in every quiet moment. And that's when realization hits. That's when regret comes knocking. But by then, you'll have already chosen yourself. You'll be too far gone to look back. Confidence is not loud, it's lethal. It doesn't scream, it whispers, and yet the whole room stops to listen. Real confidence doesn't need attention, it commands it. A confident woman doesn't need to announce her worth, she carries it in her walk, in her silence, in her refusal to be shaken by anyone's chaos. It's in the way she walks into a room and doesn't search for approval because she already gave it to herself. You want to know what shakes a man to his core? Not a woman who yells to be seen, but a woman who doesn't even flinch when he tries to test her. She doesn't argue when he withdraws. She doesn't chase when he ghosts. She doesn't beg for clarity. She becomes it. That kind of confidence, it's dangerous. It's unforgettable. It lingers in his memory like perfume he can't name, but can't forget either. There was a woman I knew who walked away from a man she loved deeply. Not because she stopped loving him, but because he stopped respecting her. She didn't shout. She didn't cry in front of him. She just said one sentence, "I deserve better." And then she left. That one moment, quiet, composed, grounded, hit him harder than any meltdown ever could. Because that's the thing about quiet confidence. It burns slow, but it burns deep. Confidence isn't about having the loudest laugh or the boldest outfit. It's about being so grounded in who you are that nothing external can break your internal peace. You walk into meetings, into dates, into life, not to impress, but to express. You're not trying to convince anyone of your worth. You're just showing up as a reminder. I am the standard. I don't chase. I choose. Think of the women who inspire you. The ones who don't need to post every win, prove every move, or explain every boundary. They're calm, they're collected, and somehow they still leave the strongest impression. Why? Because their confidence is not a show. It's a statement. It's the quiet look in their eye that says, I know who I am. Do you? I once watched a woman get cheated on by a man who thought he could come back after a few apologies. She listened to him. Calm. Then she stood up, looked him dead in the eyes, and said, you had access to the best and you chose average. That says more about you than it ever will about me. She didn't cry. She didn't collapse. She didn't rage. She walked away like a queen who already knew her throne was waiting somewhere better. That is the lethal kind of confidence. Not loud, not dramatic, just undeniable. The kind that makes men regret, the kind that makes people respect. The kind that doesn't just fill the room, it changes it. Confidence is holding your standards high and your words few. It's walking away when it no longer feels right, even if your heart wants to stay. It's choosing solitude over disrespect. It's sitting alone at a restaurant with your head high while others whisper and you sip your wine like royalty. It's not arrogance. It's self-acknowledge. It's self-trust. And it scares people who benefit from your doubt. You don't need to prove you're powerful. Just be still, be present, be real. Because when a woman stops over-explaining, stops seeking permission, stops shrinking to fit into places she's outgrown, she becomes lethal. A threat to every man who thought he could toy with her. A mystery to every eye that watches her walk away. A legend in the making. Don't be his option. Be his obsession. Because the moment you allow yourself to be treated like a backup plan, you've already handed over your crown. You weren't born to be maybe. You weren't created to be convenient. You are not his second choice when the first one fails. You are the one, the standard, the storm, the sunrise. So why settle for being on the bench when you were born to lead the game? A woman becomes his obsession not by begging for attention, but by owning her power so fully, he can't look away. She becomes unforgettable when she's busy building her life, not waiting on a man to validate her place in it. She becomes magnetic when she walks away the moment she feels unprioritized. Because nothing haunts a man more than the woman who never needed him, but chose him, until he gave her a reason not to. I knew a woman who loved a man with all her heart. She gave, she supported, she waited, but he kept her in limbo. She was always almost his girlfriend, almost important, almost enough, until one day, she didn't beg, she didn't argue. She simply stood up and said, if I'm not your priority, I won't be your option. And she walked away like she was walking towards herself. That move changed everything. Weeks later, he was the one calling, chasing, regretting. Because obsession isn't born in chaos, it's born in clarity. Men don't obsess over women who bend over backward. They obsess over the ones they can't quite figure out. The ones who are radiant with or without them. The ones who inspire curiosity, not pity. If you're always available, always saying yes, always waiting, how can he ever fear losing you? And if he's not afraid to lose you, why would he value you? When you become his option, he'll schedule you around his convenience. But when you become his obsession, he'll rearrange his world to keep you in it. That starts with you choosing yourself, loudly, unapologetically, every single time he hesitates. It's not about playing games. It's about setting the rules to your life and refusing to participate in relationships that operate on confusion and crumbs. I watched a woman reinvent herself after a man ghosted her. Instead of shrinking, she expanded. She hit the gym. She glowed up. She took trips. She launched a business. She became so focused on her growth that she didn't even notice when he crawled back into her inbox. She didn't respond. Why? Because a woman who makes herself the main character no longer fits in the side role of someone else's story. Don't be available every time he calls. Let him wonder. Let him chase. Let him feel your absence and taste the silence. Obsession is born when there's distance wrapped in confidence. When there's mystery clothed in elegance. When he looks at you and knows he can't replace you, replicate you, or recover from you. That's when you become a force. Not just in his heart, but in his mind. People will try to convince you to be low maintenance, to expect less, ask for less, accept less. But queens don't lower their standards to make a man stay. They raise their frequency to make the wrong ones fade. When you become the woman who walks in purpose, who demands peace, who commands presence without a word, you don't just enter his life, you shift it. Be the woman he replays in his mind every night. Be the voice he hears when he's with someone else and realizes she's not you. Be the standard that ruins his taste for anything mediocre. That's not done with desperation, that's done with discipline, with standards, with a glow that says, I know what I bring, and if you can't see it, watch me give it to someone who will. You're not meant to be an afterthought. You're not built for the maybe pile. You're the headline, the center, the masterpiece. So carry yourself like it. The only place you exist in his life is everywhere he can't escape you. So here you are, not just a woman, but a revelation, a force of nature, a storm in heels. You've walked through fire, and instead of burning, you learned how to rise. Unshaken, untamed, and unapologetically powerful. This journey isn't about controlling his mind and heart just to feel validated. Nah, this is about realizing the greatest power you will ever hold is the one you've had all along. You. You don't chase. You attract. What belongs to you will find you when you finally understand that your silence can scream louder than your words. Your presence can haunt deeper than your absence. And your standards will either crown a king or expose a coward. They told you to be soft. They told you to be quiet. They told you to make him happy before you made yourself whole. But here's the truth no one dares to say. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be unforgettable. There is nothing more terrifying to a weak man than a woman who doesn't need him to feel complete. Be that terror. Be that fire. Let them tremble at your calm. Let them sweat when you smile without explanation. As one powerful quote says, a woman who is in control of her emotions can control any room she walks into. You don't need to raise your voice to raise your value. You don't need to beg to be chosen. You choose yourself. And that choice alone changes everything. There are women who are pretty, and then there are women who are powerful. You're not just the dream, you're the lesson. You're not just his type, you're his turning point, his test, his transformation. And the moment you stop living to be desired and start living to be respected, you step into your divine power. Because, darling, when you become the woman who doesn't fear being alone, you become the woman no man dares to lose. Let every woman watching this remember, you are the prize. Not because you're perfect, but because you've owned your imperfection. Because you've turned pain into power. Because your silence now echoes louder than any noise you ever made for the wrong ones. Hearts are not won through begging. Minds are not captured through neediness. The real game, it's played through presence, through confidence, through the art of not reacting but responding, through knowing that when you walk away, it's not a threat, it's a statement. And when you love yourself out loud, the universe has no choice but to match your energy. Be so grounded that chaos has to knock for permission. Be so clear in your worth that love either levels up or leaves. Let them call you intimidating. Let them say you're too much. Because queens were never meant to be convenient. They were meant to be consequential. Like the legend says, you either walk inside your story and own it, or you stand outside your story and hustle for your worth. Own it. Own the narrative. Own the spotlight. Own the heartbreak, the glow up, the transformation. Because one day, he'll scroll through memories, through messages, through moments, and realize the girl he played was the woman he can't forget. But by then, it won't matter, because you'll be too busy building your empire, lighting up rooms with your presence, and commanding the kind of love that doesn't need fixing or forcing. It just fits. You are not here to be remembered by someone who forgot your value. You are here to be revered, admired, chosen by those who recognize your fire without needing to touch the flame. So straighten your crown, look in the mirror, and remind yourself, I don't compete, I don't chase, I don't settle. I align, I rise, and I reign. Because once a woman discovers her power, she doesn't just turn heads, she turns destinies.